Hey, good evening, everybody. I know this is a little bit of a change up. We're throwing y'all a little curveball, went along with a little fastball. But today is Saturday. It's not Sunday. But anyways, guys, today is March 22nd at 7:30. Guys, I'm glad y'all could make it. I have been looking forward for this interview forever. I mean, just about half the what was it? Sometime last year, or something like that. Man, I've been looking for this guy forever, and he's finally got a chance to come on with us tonight. But let me say hello to everybody. Stephen Hicks, good to see you, bud. I got that cigarette put out. Uh, Curtis, how you doing, buddy? Glad to see you. My guy, Mr. Athos. I always love seeing Mr. Athos on here. That's my buddy. Patty Troy, good seeing you, hon. I'm glad to see you again. And let's see, Joanne, that's my sweetheart. In a good way. Don't nobody get no crazy stuff. Guys, I'm gonna show you something. Let's see here. Let me cut this light on. How you like that? Got me a new shirt made. I did. And this is what it looks like on the back. How y'all like that? That I wanted to show you that for a reason because I had a lady uh I commissioned her to do it, and I think she done a wonderful job. And I always want to brag on her. She done some other shirts for me, but she done a good job with this one and the other one too. Matter of fact, and y'all will know which one I'm talking about. But I wanted to brag on her a little bit. She done a great job, and I want y'all to see what she done for me. But anyways, guys, my favorite part of the show is before we come on, and I get to talk to the folks that come on, and I get to talk to them on after the show, and they're just great people always. I wish y'all could see. Uh, I think me and this other guy we talked one night, and we could have done two shows just us sitting there talking. But anyways, without further delay, let's get going on this one. All right, my first guy I'm bringing on is we had him on what 2 weeks ago, maybe three. But he was a good interview. I love this guy. Is never short for words. He's just fun to hang out with and talk, man. I mean, I've had a great time since I've ever talked to him. He is just great. Anyway, welcome on the show, Mr. Patrick Perry, back again. Hey, Patrick,
Hey everybody,
how you
how
doing?
y'all? Oh, I'm doing good, man. How you doing, Icebox?
I'm doing. I told you, man. I'm like this. I'm excited for tonight. I
Yeah,
really am. Yes,
I'm
sir.
excited too.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, we won't hang out too much. God, man, I'm telling you, I've been waiting for this guy a long time. Here we are, Mr. Ryan.
Drum
Yeah, do it,
roll.
do it, do it. All right, everybody, welcome Mr. Paul Tremblay. I hope I said that right.
You said it
Ryan,
right.
cool.
Hello. How's it going,
How you doing,
everybody?
buddy?
I'm doing good. I've been super busy, so your show kind of gave me a chance just to chill out and relax and get away from the computer with writing my books, man, because I've been just grinding at the keyboard nonstop lately.
Yeah, you writing a book?
Yeah, I'm writing three books actually. I'm working on a book about the Wendigo. I'm working on a book based on the Yi Naralushi, the Skinwalkers, for those who don't know what Yi Naralushi is. And I'm starting a book on Cherokee legends. So
Okay. Now I see what you said. What you was talking about earlier. All right, I like
yeah.
that. Uh, you
Mhm.
got my uh, message. So when you get them done, you let me know. Seriously, I really want
Oh,
to, especially
absolutely.
especially the one about the Cherokee.
So I'm gonna do a thing where anybody that supports me promote my books on live shows or recorded shows, they're gonna get a free autographed copy. So your name's in the hat.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Mhm.
send you my address. Matter of fact, for whenever you get
Okay.
done. But if you even,
Sure.
hey,
Yes.
I'll be glad to pay. I'll be glad to pay and
No.
promote you. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't go that way, but you just let me know when they're done. You just let
I
me
sure
know.
will.
That's
I
all I need
absolutely
to know.
will. Hmm.
Okay. How far along you got to go?
The Wendigo book is pretty much done. I'm just doing the editing process right now because I think it turned out really dark and gory, and I don't want to give everybody nightmares. So that one's kind of going through the editing process. The Skinwalker one is all done. The Skinwalker book is finished. I'm just going to send it off to the publisher. And then the Cherokee one, I just started maybe about 2 weeks ago.
How long you figure on that one? I know there's
Maybe
no timeline.
6 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Good deal.
Hmm.
I'll tell you what. Patrick. Listen to me, Patrick. Ryan, you've always been known as the Wendigo guy. So you want to tell us how you
Yes.
got started with all this?
Sure. So with the Wendigo, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and they had Wendigo creepypastas, and it took my interest. It caught me in interest, and I was like, well, this doesn't seem right. There's something off about it. Like they always made horror stories like the Slender Man and the Rake, and I decided I'm going to contact the indigenous tribes from Canada, and I'm going to get the real stories from them. So that's what I started doing. I started talking to people like Chad Lewis, who wrote a great Wendigo book. And he told me, talk to the people, the native people, and they'll give you the true stories. So that's what I did. I reached out to people in Canada, and it took me a long time because at first they thought I was a white dude, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not as white as I look. I had to prove that, my ancestry was in Canada, that my grandmother, my great-great-grandmother was actually from the Cree tribe. So Wendigo, being a Cree, Ojibwe, Algonquin belief, once they found that out, they were like, oh, okay, we'll talk to you then. So they started giving me the history and the oral traditions and the mythologies behind the Wendigo.
That had to be fascinating. Fascinating stuff, I'm sure.
It was, but it was one of those things that I learned real quick. Don't sit there and read it at night because you're looking over reading this stuff. You're like, there's nothing behind me, right?
You got to tell them about the original story of the Wendigo, the original one that you told me.
Yeah. So, okay. So the name Wendigo, it's derived from a term Wetigo. And what that means is for oneself. They're kind of basing it on greed and excess, So what happened is the Wendigo became a spiritual thing. It's an entity that when somebody breaks certain cultural taboos, then he or she or they can get possessed by the Wendigo spirit. So in their tribes, in all the tribes, cannibalism is the most evil thing that somebody can do. So feasting on human flesh is something that they frown upon at all times. Well, people started resorting to harsh winters. Game is very hard to find. People run out of food until they look at their roommate and they're like, oh, well, you're kind of food, So yeah, that's the most popular method. Cannibalism is the most popular method, but one can become a Wendigo through curses. So if a shaman is done wrong, they can actually bring up the Wendigo spirit to possess whoever has slighted them. And people say there's no evidence, there's no records of the Wendigo, and that is not true. That's 100% not true. So I don't know if you guys have eaten recently. If you have, please just, don't throw up on me. But in the winter of 1879, near Fort Saskatchewan in Canada, there was a Cree fur trapper by the name of Swift Runner. Okay. And he took his family on this hunting route that he had done many, many times. He's done this like so many times during his life that he knew it like the back of his hand. So off with his mother, his mother-in-law, and his 3 kids. A few weeks later, he comes back to Fort Saskatchewan, and he's telling the people in this place how food was scarce. They were all starving to death, that they were all dying from not eating. Weird thing was, he had gained weight. He actually looked thicker than when he left. So they started becoming suspicious of him. They started going, what really happened out there? And as he got drunk, he started drinking the fire water. The alcohol doesn't mix very well with, the Cree people. He started telling people how he killed his family. He ate his family. And so the magistrates come in, and the magistrates actually demanded that he lead them to the cabin where he stayed. And he did. He took them to the cabin. When they got there, arrived on the scene, there was smears of blood on the trees. There were smears of blood on the ground. There was fat, human fat, smeared on the walls of the cabin. Are really, really disgusting. When they walk in, they find bones, the skulls, the femurs, the ribs, and he tells them how he cracked open the femurs to get to the bone marrow, how he cracked open the skulls to get to the brain. And so when they asked him, why did you do this? This is your family. He told them simply, because I am Wendigo. So this guy, the Swift Runner, was the first actual hanging at Fort Saskatchewan. But until the day he died, he maintained that he killed his family because the Wendigo had possessed him.
Ryan, I asked you one time, you was on another show. Like I said, this has been a while back, and their computer went out and you was left by yourself on there, and you was just, hey guys, you got any kind of questions? You was not shy to back away from anybody from any question,
No.
and nobody really was doing anything. So I typed in there, and I said something about, is it true that Wendigo has horns? And you come back with the answer of,
No, actually, because the deer-headed antlered Wendigo that everybody sees on Facebook, Instagram, that's so far off from how the Wendigo is. So if you follow the Algonquin, the Cree Ojibwe belief, what they look like is they're an emaciated human who very, very gaunt, chalk white skin, okay? And you can see the bones through their skin. That's how starving they are. And they're completely bald, no hair at all, sunken black eyes or yellow eyes. I think the yellow eyes kind of represents how when somebody becomes ill, the whites of their eyes turn that yellow jaundiced color, and so they also don't have any lips. They're so hungry that they've chewed upon their own lips and their own fingertips.
Wow.
That's how horrible this thing is. Imagine seeing something like that. You're out in the winter time, the snow is thick. You're getting lost in the wilderness, and you come across this emaciated, demonic looking human being. It's so funny. It's because what happened is pop culture played a role in the whole Wendigo thing. Algernon Blackwood wrote a book called The Wendigo, and he kind of penciled things that looked like, a giant with branches on their hair. It was sticking out like this, and people misinterpreted that as antlers. But even Algernon Blackwood was like, well, no, I didn't mean they were antlers. They're branches, because a Wendigo is known to use the forest debris as camouflage when it's hiding from people.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now let me ask you this then, Ryan.
So I got a quick question. And I'm sure you probably already answered this on my show, but I talk about so many things. You're like on point on this stuff. Does it take place in a specific region, kind of like the Skinwalkers do, or is it something that can go on anywhere?
It's basically grounded to Canada. Now, from what I've been told, it's because it's an entity. It'd be considered a demon by modern day Christians. Okay. So it needs the energies from the grounds in Canada. There's something about the area there that empowers this thing. Now, people say that they've seen it in Minnesota, but when you hear people in Minnesota saying, I saw a Wendigo, they're always describing that deer-headed antlered creature. So I have to be the one to tell them, well, if you saw something with a deer head, that's not the Wendigo. That's not how any of the tribes depict it, so you can't paint it as you want it to be painted and say, that's the Wendigo. No, the tribes told you what they look like. They told you what they do, how they come about, what they do when they get here. They're not going to just look at you and say, oh, hi, I'm the Wendigo. How are you? They're going to hunt you down. They're going to stalk you. They're going to want to eat you, so a lot of people misinterpret it. But yeah, it's mostly in Canada that the Wendigo is prevalent.
So do you think, because Louisiana has a French Canadian background to them down there, and they're more notorious with the Rougarou, which is basically the same thing, is it not?
In a way. So the Rougarou, based on the Creole and the Cajun legend, a man or a woman becomes a werewolf-like creature when they break certain Catholic rules. Okay, so in a way, it's got the transformation part that's similar to the Wendigo. But other than that, there's really nothing in common with them. It has more in common with the werewolf mythologies.
Really? Okay. Because when I see, go ahead, Ryan. Patrick.
I was going to say, so basically you're telling me that if I go to the north, I'm going to get eaten by a Wendigo. If I go to the south, I'm going to get eaten by a Rougarou.
And everything in between.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was going to say, what the heck? Where am I safe, Ryan?
I didn't limit your travel plans, Patrick. That's my bad. My mistake.
That is so funny.
But no, the Rougarou is an interesting thing, though. I mean, they have that whole transformation common, which, you were right about that. But the Rougarou is a lot different. I mean, it's almost comical because when one becomes a Rougarou, they kind of become stupid. So one of the ways to fool a Rougarou is to leave them 13 stones or 13 coins, because allegedly the Rougarou can't count past 13. So once it hits 13, it starts counting them all over again, and you got to wonder, why does a werewolf become so dumb?
But well, see, I'm not deep into the Rougarou, But I did watch a few shows, and you know what I'm talking about. I can be misled just as anybody. But they
Sure.
were saying stuff like it was a curse, and
Yeah.
they had some guy on there that was supposed to have been a Rougarou, where they locked him up in the barn that particular night, yada yada. And I'm sitting there wondering. I think it's just more or less a play on their minds, that their faith or their beliefs were so deep,
It
that
could
they
be.
believed that they got cursed, and they would
Yeah.
go off, in a different direction.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
don't
yeah, I
know.
mean, back in
So what
the
about
day, back in the day before we had modern technology, we were suspicious a lot. Every group of people had their own superstitions. And like if they heard the wind blow, they thought it was some kind of banshee or whatever. If you went over to the Celtic lands, it's the banshee when you hear the wind blow, or like the Rougarou. If somebody acted different or they looked different, they assumed, oh, he's not fully human. So superstition is a huge part of every cryptid lore.
Well, I mean, superstition's got its place in everywhere. That's like me. My mother told me since I was a kid, you don't cut your hair and you don't cut your nails on Sunday. So come 12
Hmm.
o'clock tonight, there's no way I'm gonna cut my nails or my hair. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's something that you learned when you was younger. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'll tell you what. There's some people who have asked some serious. Go ahead. While you do.
Okay,
What was
so
you gonna
I
say?
want to
Go
make a
ahead.
comment on something that somebody said in the chat, actually. So Stephen Hicks said that he thinks they're all kin to Sasquatch, just from different people. No, absolutely not. Because in the case of the Wendigo, you have the Wendigo, but then you have the Ojibwe name Kichesabe. Okay, the Cree and the Algonquins call Bigfoot Genosqua. So they know the difference between Bigfoot and the Wendigo. They don't put them together and say, oh, they're one and the same, just different names. No, each one has a name, a representation. So none of them can be lumped together. And that's one of my missions with the indigenous lore, because I see a lot of people putting things like the Raven Mocker and stuff like that as Bigfoot. And I'm going, no, study the lore. Study the lore and talk to the people and learn the details.
Ooh, the Raven Mocker, that's a scary one. I remember you
Who?
telling me about that
Mhm.
one. The Raven Mocker, that's a scary one.
Okay.
That is,
Ryan,
and that's Cherokee.
somebody wants to know how they can contact you besides Twitter. I think they're
Well, I have
more
Facebook.
interested in
I
your
have,
book.
okay, I have Facebook. You just look up Ryan Paul Tremblay, or go to Instagram Paul Tremblay, or you can go through Patrick or Icebox, and they can put you in contact with me.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Can a non-native
Mhm.
be attacked by a Wendigo spirit?
Yes. Yes. If you're in the territories for this and you start breaking certain cultural taboos, that you can become under the influence of the Wendigo.
Okay. Uh, is
Mhm.
Wendigo the same as a skinwalker?
No,
And then we're
no.
gonna get
See,
to
now
my
we're going to get
question.
some meat and bones. Yeah, we're going to get some meaty stuff right now. So, all right, the skinwalker, according to the Dene people, the name Yinaralushi is what they call the skinwalkers. And the name Yinaralushi means by means of it on all fours he goes. Okay. And what they start out as is they're shaman, they're medicine men of the Navajo Dene tribe, but they've chosen a darker path. And the roots can be traced back way back when the Spaniards first arrived here in the States. Okay. The gods of the Navajo, of the Dene people, gave them the ability to shapeshift. Okay. And the medicine men would use this to turn into an eagle or to a hawk or a coyote, so that traveling was quicker. They could get to a sick person much faster. But with all gifts, there's always a dark side to it. And certain medicine men started going, we can use this for more selfish reasons. So it started out where they started using these shape-shifting abilities to go spy on the Spaniards and spy on their enemies. It seems harmless enough, because you're protecting your people. But then they started realizing that this power came with more skills that they could use to get their own way, to fulfill their own selfish desires. So more and more shaman were starting to create the whole Yinaralushi belief, where they were used just for selfish purposes, and they would cause chaos amongst the Navajo people. They would hurt their own people. They just do whatever they could to disrupt the belief of their own tribe.
Funny you say that, because Patrick said he'd come right before the show. Patrick, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I had an interview this last Thursday, and
Mm-hmm.
and it took place, and this is again has to do with like where can these things happen, because I
Mm-hmm.
know it's usually the Southwest is where skinwalkers are supposed to originate, but
Right.
she had an encounter that happened in Florida that, and two, that to me, I mean, just screams skinwalker, but it's not in the right area. The first one was, and they both took place on an Indian burial ground. The first one,
Sure.
she was out there and she heard crashing coming through the woods, and she was only about 10 foot away, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She sees a deer come out of the woods, but the deer had a human face, just the face. Because I went through it with her and I'm like, so did it have a whole head of a human? She's like, no, it had a deer head, just the face, just the face.
Okay.
And then her second encounter, same area, about the same time of day and about the same distance. But when she said when the deer came out, it saw her, was startled. She said it had a startled look on its face, turned around and ran the other way. The second one,
weird.
She said she walked. Yeah. She noticed what she called a bird man standing on a rock.
Okay.
And she said it didn't notice her. She said it was on the rock, kind of like cleaning its wings or something. It had a bird head, bird wings, a man's body, and a man's legs. And she said she was so scared of that one that she just booked it. She said she didn't even see that it noticed her. The deer man noticed her, but the bird man did not. So, and I was like,
so I'm curious. I'm curious, does she have any indigenous roots at all?
You know what? I did not ask her. Damn
because
it, Brian,
what she's
I should have had
describing
you on that interview.
Yes. So what she's describing, though, that does fall into two different Cherokee beliefs. Okay. So we'll start with the Birdman first. The Birdman, the way she described it, kind of reminds me of the Kalanu Akaliski, the Raven Mocker. You know, the way that she said it had a bird's head and a man's body. That's sometimes how they describe the Raven Mocker in Cherokee legend. Sometimes they describe it as an old woman with an old man or an old woman with bird feet and feathers. But the way she's talking about it, it does seem like very similar to the Cherokee belief of the Raven Mocker. You know, so I mean, you should find out if she has indigenous.
Do you think? Because I've heard reports. I say reports of a big bird, huge bird, and we're not talking the dinosaur type. I'm talking about big birds. I've heard reports of these bigger than eagles and such like that. Do they have any kind of connection?
The Thunderbirds. Okay, so Thunderbirds, I mean, again, you know, you might want to ask if she has any indigenous roots, because the Thunderbird, you know, that's something that almost every single tribe across the nation actually believes in. But see, this is another one of the folklore creatures that people tend to overhype and they make it to something it's not. You'll hear a lot of people say how Thunderbirds are deadly, they kill people, but the tribes don't believe that. The Thunderbird is a sacred creature. It's the bringer of storms. It's the bringer of good luck and fortune. And it actually at one time fought the great horned serpent to protect the people. So Thunderbirds aren't evil. They're not deadly. They're not going to kill you. It's a blessing when you see something that might be a Thunderbird.
So I just noticed something in the chats, and I think Icebox brought it up earlier about the Birdman. The lady Stephen asked, do you believe in Mothman? And I think Icebox asked earlier if maybe that Birdman and Mothman might be similar.
It could be. It could be. I mean, I don't really put a lot of study into the Mothman, but I know some people who do. But at one point in UK, we're seeing what they called an owl man. And that's very similar to how people describe the Mothman at Point Pleasant. So, I mean, there could be something to that. It could be the same entity, just, you know, different description from people that don't know how to describe it, or just a different name.
I'm wondering if they're in somewhat of the same, and let's just go this way, same species, same type. And the Thunderbird, and now that the story that when I was told that was probably in recent times, and what I'm saying, this is not basically back in native folklore or anything. This has been in recent times that they've seen this this bird. I don't know the whole story. I actually had him on my show, and I just didn't get a chance to talk about it. But he talked about the Wampus
Okay.
cat and stuff like that. But he does have a story of this big bird that I think his grandmother had seen, and I think he was,
Nice. Okay.
yeah, I think he was with him, and he basically got, you know, go away. You don't need to see this type
Yeah.
deal, So, but he did see it, or his
Well, I mean, when you
grandmother
see
told him.
something like that,
Go ahead.
let's face it, if you and I or any of us were out right now and we saw a giant bird, we're not going to sit there and be like, oh, look how pretty it is. We're going to be like, holy crap, that's a big bird. I'm
Yeah.
out. See ya. So,
Yeah. I've had like, I think 3 interviews on Thunderbirds, but some of them describe them as birds, but some of them say they look like pterodactyls, which
I think that's misleading, though, because
Yeah.
when you look at paintings on pottery, on cave walls, tapestries that the Native American people made, they always represent them as like a condor or an eagle. I think when they're seeing pterodactyls, I mean, it's a little far-fetched and you guys might disagree, but I think people see dime slips. Something
no,
happens with different portals or where creatures from the past are briefly seen.
I can agree with that. I mean, call me crazy, call me
I
woo.
know
I
it,
don't care. I think it happens.
right? Right?
Well,
Call me nuts if you want
that's
to.
a whole that's a whole different show, Patrick. We
Yeah,
talked
I
about
know.
that. uh, right, I don't believe in portals. Sorry, but you know what I'm saying. Me and Patrick,
That's
we really had
that's
a good conversation about that. Yeah, I know. We had a good
mhm.
conversation about it, and we could have done a whole show that afternoon.
Yeah,
Just
that was
talking
fun.
about that. It was fun.
You
All right,
you
here's
should.
something.
I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
We ordered to, because I'm more flesh and blood. I'm a Bigfoot kind of guy, right? Through and through,
Mhm.
flesh and blood. Okay. Till people show me something different, I'm still open minded to other theories. I love the native lore
Mhm.
about stuff, uh, but
Mhm.
to really go way out there, I need to see proof. And I'm sorry. Oh well, I ain't sorry. I mean, that's just the way I am. I'm more of a
Sure.
logical, common sense, reasoning type
Yeah,
guy.
we're on the same side. I mean, I believe in the spiritual aspect, but I need the evidence. I need the proof that
Yeah.
these things are either interdimensional or, ultra terrestrial, whatever you want to call it. Everybody has a different name, but I would love to see so that they're more than flesh and blood. I really would.
I
Well,
told a guy, go ahead,
just
Patrick.
just to defend myself, I believe in flesh and blood. That originally that's what I believed in, but now I keep my
Mhm.
mind way open. I'd have no evidence either which way, but my mind's just
Sure.
open to
Right.
all
Exactly.
possibilities. So
Well,
sorry, I Fox.
That's how you got to
no, no,
do it.
no, 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 no. You're fine, Patrick. See, Patrick is one of them kind of guys you can have a civil conversation about it, whether I'm right or he's wrong or he's right and I'm wrong. It doesn't matter. We're just having a civil conversation, and I
Mhm.
love that about Patrick. And like I said, we had a great time. But
Yeah, he's a great
my
guy. He's
evidence,
an
and
awesome dude.
y'all, he is. You guys really
So
don't
are
know
you
Patrick.
guys.
You got to talk to him for an hour or so, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He can be different, and it's fine. He's just great to talk to. He's a lot of fun, a lot of fun. But
Mhm.
anyways, as you see on my intro, I've got a picture of a footprint, a handprint, tree bows. These are physical things that you can see
Mhm.
and find. Okay, you have audio, of course,
Yes.
but so far nobody has shown me. And I've had people tell me I've got a video of a Bigfoot cloaking or a Bigfoot um, walking into a portal or something like that. And I told him simply, send me the film or the pictures to a guy. He will make
Mhm.
sure that I get it. Hey, Richard, how you doing tonight, buddy? Uh, and they never sent it. And I don't know why. I'm not here to
Mhm.
judge you. I'm here to study your evidence. That's what I want to do. I'm going to analyze it the best I can.
Yeah.
And I've got people to help me analyze and see what we can, if there's proof, let's go this route. Somebody says, I can talk to Bigfoot. Okay, fine. Here's what I
Right.
want you to do. Let's go out in the woods. I want you to have ask Bigfoot if he'll walk out from this tree line, come out here. If he comes out, I want you to ask him to stand on one leg. I'm not trying to be funny, I'm wanting to see that
Okay.
you can communicate. Yeah. Yeah. If you can make it or put a hand up, I really don't care. I'm not asking this thing to dance. I want it to
Yeah. I
respond
get you.
to you. Yeah. I want it to respond to my asking through you. Okay. And if it does that, okay, now I got something I can work with.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I look for whenever anybody says anything like that. But what I really want to get to, you said it first, and I was going to somewhat leave it alone until you said it, the gut way.
Okay. All right. So the
Go
Gugway.
ahead.
For people that don't know what that is, the Gugwe are a type of Bigfoot or Bigfoot-like creature that people have seen, but it has a more mandrill or baboon-like snout, okay? And it's really just nasty disposition. So unlike the Patty Bigfoot from the Patterson-Gimlin film, it's not going to walk right by you and just try to get away from you. Gugwe are known for actually cannibalizing or eating human beings, and they call them the face eaters because they're known to attack the face and rip your head off, and I think a lot of people are misinterpreting what these things stems from the Micmac tradition where they call them the Kookwes. All right. And this is where the confusion is going to come in. So hopefully, Patrick and Icebox, you can start looking into it a little bit, see what you come up with. But the Micmac always said that Kookwes were always female. All right. So they carried a basket on their back and they would capture kids. They would capture women that were out by themselves to take them back to their caves and eat them. All right. So modern day sightings, when people say, "Oh, I saw a male Gugwe," I kind of got to go, "No, you didn't," because the Micmac said they're always female. So how are you seeing a male Kookwes? So when the Micmac said no, they're always women. Yeah, that's a little confusing, isn't it?
A little bit, because you got to have male to have females.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, you
So-
die out.
So
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if I talked about it with you, Icebox, on your show, but a buddy of mine that lives not far from me here was on with Josh Gates, that show. I can't remember the name of it. Expedition X, I think. And they came out looking for the Ozark Howler out here in the Ozarks. And he kept saying, "No, I got Bigfoot. I got Bigfoot." And he was showing me game cam pics. And I'm telling you, man, the one, and I saw several pics, but in one, it looked like a damn baboon face looking back at the camera out of the woods. I mean, legit baboon face. So apparently you can't be in the middle anymore either, because now we got that. But I want to ask you, Ryan, are those specific to a certain area? The Gugwe.
They used to be. People used to say that they were in Maine, closer to the borders of Canada, but a lot of people are seeing them in places like Missouri, and I even have some reports from here in Arizona. And I can't just discount that as a researcher. When somebody says this is what I saw and they bring you a picture that they drew of it, that makes me go, oh, whoa, wait a minute. You thought you saw a Bigfoot, but this thing has a mandrill-like snout, so maybe it wasn't a Bigfoot after all. But they are being seen in different places.
What about the Janoskwa? You ever heard of those?
Oh, absolutely. That's an Algonquin, an Ojibwe. So the Janoskwa, their name means stonish giants, okay? And according to the story, they're a Bigfoot-like creature. They're very immense, very huge. They also get a very nasty attitude. So what they would do is they would go and roll in sap and mud and all the sticky stuff. Then they would roll in river rock. So they had kind of like an applique armor on them. Back in the day, that would stop flint arrowheads. If you were a Bigfoot that was trying to raid a village and you had stones all over your body, arrowheads weren't going to do much good, So these Bigfoot used to get so arrogant and so cocky that they knew they had the armor. So before they raided the villages, they would whistle. They had a certain kind of whistle that would let all the people in the village know, here we come, we're hungry, so we're going to take some of you Happy Meals back home with us.
Oh, Lord, have mercy. That's the best way to put it, I reckon. Is there any particular areas of those?
Well, I mean, those are in Canada. People have seen some in Maine. There was a few reported in Wisconsin, Iowa. I think maybe if they get enough snow and enough game animals like deer and pig, that maybe the Genoa will follow them down from Canada and just go wherever the prey goes. I mean, that's what smart predators do.
Yeah, yep, they do. Uh, Richard, that's my
Mhm.
buddy, and for guys, let's put it this way, BFFC, Bigfoot Florida guy. Y'all catch his show. He does a great show. Boots on the ground type researcher. Love him to
Mhm.
death. And of course, he's come in late, and he wants to know about the Rougarou. You care to repeat it?
Sure. So it's a Cajun belief. It's a Cajun Catholicism belief where if somebody breaks the Catholicism rules, he can become a Rougarou, a werewolf-like creature that's going to be stalking the people until the curse is broken. Now, something that's very interesting, Rougarou, if you were to ever see one, the last thing you want to do is look it in the eyes because eye contact can take the curse and put it onto you. So you can become a Rougarou just by looking it in the eyes. And that's one
Huh.
interesting point of it. And they also say that the only one that can kill a Rougarou is a family member.
That's what
Only
I
a
heard.
family member can
Yeah,
kill the Rougarou and free that person of the curse. Yep.
So I actually have a question. Do you think? Because I mean, honestly, the Rougarou sounds a lot like a damn dog, man. So are they different? They
It
the
does.
same?
It does.
So and what you saw was it in Arizona?
I think they are. I mean, I haven't received any reports of a dog man changing from a beast to a man.
So is that the basis? Is that the basis of a Rougarou? Is that it changes? He's freezing up a little bit.
So what it could be. Oh, I keep losing connection for some reason. Sorry.
Oh, that's all
you're
good.
you're back.
You're back.
Okay. Okay, so I think that they're actually very different things. I don't think we can lump the Rougarou with the Dogman and Dogman with Rougarou. I think if we do that, we're making the big mistake of answering one mystery.
Okay. So, and basically, I'm getting out of it. The big takeaway from this is a Rougarou can change back to a person, but a dog man's just a dog man.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I've never, heard of anybody seeing a Dogman change from Dogman to human. Does that mean it doesn't happen? Well, maybe not, but nobody's seen it. So I don't think we can really say that they're one and the same in any way until somebody actually has video changing from a human to a beast.
Yeah, let me step in there, Ryan, for a second. I've had some people ask me, said, "Do you not believe in werewolves?" I said, "No, I don't." I mean, I think that was now it's probably based on some kind of premise back from old England days and such like that. But I don't see how a human featured face and body can grow fingernails, grow hair, and their jaws extend with canine type teeth and the ears
Mhm.
change up to to a beast type animal, and then come sunrise it changes back. To me, I think that's physically impossible. Okay, now
I
does
mean,
one think so in their mind? Maybe, sure, but not
mhm.
something physically can be done. It's
Okay.
either
I
like
mean,
you said,
that's
it's a
completely
dog man or a dog man. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's a completely valid point though, because you do bring up an interesting and valid point that the human body, how many times could it go through a transformation like that until that human body is no good anymore? I mean, our bones would be breaking every time we turn into a werewolf, right? And our
Right.
muscles would expand to, points that we're not used to. Our body would just, be destroyed even after maybe like one transformation, I would think.
You would think,
So I think maybe it's either
Well,
a thing or, yeah, it could be a state of mind. I
so
think when people had rabies,
yeah.
do you think the skinwalkers have the same thing going on? Like
I think
with
there's
the
something very
transformation?
different. I think what goes on is maybe the transformation is not what we think it is. I think maybe it's a state of mind that they get into and they don the pelts. So, when they're wearing the fur of a coyote or a wolf or, a bear per se, they take on the state of mind and they think, I think I am, so therefore I am.
Okay. I got an interesting
So yeah.
story. I got an interesting story. I don't know if I'm really supposed to tell this or not, but I'm gonna. I ain't gonna tell you where I heard it from. So that might keep me safe.
Uh-oh.
So I heard that there's a video out there somewhere that a person saw, and it's a thermal video, where a Bigfoot killed an elk, skinned it, and then the head and skin and kind of like draped it over itself and went on like that. And then like had was wearing the head kind of like a crown or like, you know, like a cloak with a hood. And they said
Sure.
it's and the person I talked to said that the video looks legit. And it's a thermal
Really?
the guy caught. Yeah. And it's very, very like,
Okay.
you know, nobody really knows about it. So do you
Mm,
think
okay.
possibly something like that might be happening instead, or
Well, I think, we have to look at it this way. So the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, they've been spoken about every single tribe. Every tribe has a belief in them. Now, if they've really been around as long as people claim, they're watching us like we're watching them. Okay. So they're probably going to learn things from us and mimic what we do. I mean, why wouldn't they? If you were a Bigfoot that wanted to hide from a hunter out in the wild, why not don something else so he thinks that you're, some other animal passing by? I mean, you're not going to scare him because he's going to think, oh, it's a bear or a deer, but as opposed to seeing a Sasquatch. So maybe
yeah,
it's something they
okay,
learned that could explain these structures that we find, the teepee structures, the tree bends, because all of those things are indigenous ways. Tree bends were used to mark hunting trails and to show people which way certain individuals were going. Same with the teepee structures. Teepee structures were made by Native Americans way back in the day. Did they maybe watch the indigenous people and learn from them, and they mimicked what they saw?
Let me ask you something, right? I've often heard
Yeah.
that way back when, and I don't get to talk to people like you do, but I've heard
Hmm.
stories that Bigfoot used to basically interact with the Native Americans and do trade and such like that. I've often heard the story
Yeah.
of Bigfoot would whistle, and when it would whistle, or I'm sorry, not whistle,
Hmm.
but cry, and they would sound just like a little baby, and that would cause the women to come out, and they would snatch one or two of them. You know what I mean? And I've often
Hmm.
come up with a different point of view. You heard ghost
Okay.
stories. You go to these, especially down in the South. You go to Crybaby Ridge, Crybaby Holler, Crybaby Bridge, all this kind of stuff. And I often wondered, especially since I've got into the Bigfoot realm, uh, could that have not been a Bigfoot trying to sound like? I mean, you have to look at two or three things. It could either be a Bigfoot trying to lure someone out of the car, especially a woman,
Hmm.
or it was a big cat. That's
Sure.
the only two
Yeah.
things I could actually come up with. Now, what
That
was
would make sense.
did
I
it?
mean,
It would make sense, yes, of course. But how true is it that the native people tell you that they used to trade with them? Did they say anything like
there's actually
that?
quite a few tribes. Yeah, there's quite a few tribes that said they had a peaceful coexistence with Sasquatch-like creatures until these Sasquatch creatures started crossing lines. Okay, so a story of how the Stukaloo actually was a friendly entity for them, but then it started getting really arrogant. It started kidnapping their women and their children, and that's when the Cherokee were like, okay, enough is enough. You're killing our people. We're not going to put up with this anymore. Okay, so that's when they started kind of having a Bigfoot where they were starting to kill him off, and the Bigfoot left the area because they knew they messed up. So it was one of those things where Bigfoot was like, "Yeah, we probably shouldn't have done this," and now they're fighting back. So let's get the hell out of here. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there's stories of that though. Mhm.
So they're capable of
Yeah,
picking up on different languages. Is that what you're telling me?
I think so.
You
Yeah,
think
I
so?
think they are. I think they have a way of not the words themselves. I think they understand the tone. They understand the
Yeah.
point to get across based on our body language and the vibe we're giving off.
Yep.
Because I mean, you and I talk to somebody from a foreign country, And if he's mad at us, we don't have to understand. We can look at his face and his body language and go, yo, this guy's mad at me. I don't even know what I did. I don't understand what he's saying, but clearly he's mad. So,
I agree with you 100%, Ryan. I've had people say other stuff, and I said, any animal that you can have, from a domesticated dog, cat, all the way up, they can read your body language and they can read the tone of your voice. When I raise my voice to
look
my
at
dogs.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, you don't even have to say anything with dogs. You can just walk by a dog that's not even yours, and that dog's going to pick up on your emotions. You're giving off certain energy that this dog picks up, and so the dog's going to respond to how you're reacting. So if you're in a bad mood, if you're angry, that dog's going to look at you like, what's your problem, dude? What's up with you? And he may not come to you. So
you were saying something earlier.
I know with my dog.
You were saying something earlier about the Native Americans at one point were aggressive towards the Bigfoot. I don't know if this is really on the subject, but Lovelock Cave, they pinned them. They pinned them in the cave, and then lit fires to smoke them out. Do you think that had anything to do with Bigfoot, or do you think they were actual giants in there?
No, those were the giants. Those were giants.
Okay.
I mean, like I tell a lot of people that when you look into the creatures and the entities from indigenous lore, you have to look at the details, okay? Because they will describe them the best way they possibly can. But with the Lovelock Cave, though, they were very, very specific. They said that they were humans with red hair and they were gigantic human beings, and these giants were doing things that they should not have done. And the tribes got sick of it. They're like, okay, you're killing off our people, so we're going to get rid of you. And they did what they had to do to finally stop the threat from those giants. And who can blame them? I mean, you got the beings coming down and eating your people. You're going to step up and say, hey, you know what? No, you're not doing this no more.
So, and it didn't, not long ago, didn't they excavate that cave and find sandals? I thought they found sandals that were 18 inches long.
Yeah, they found handprints in the cave too that were painted on
the
cave
I didn't know
walls.
That.
Yeah, and they were not human size; they were gigantic size human handprints.
Did they have 6
there
fingers?
Was something. I don't think so, but I know they had the red hair and the supposedly square teeth.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off track.
If you guys want to know a little interesting trivia, though, for indigenous people, a lot of tribes, when they say hi to you, they'll hold up their hands. There's a reason why they do that. So when a native person is holding up his hand to you and he expects you to do it back, he's doing that to make sure that you don't have 6 fingers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking more along that you was unarmed. You know what I mean?
No, it's to show that you don't have that. No, it's to show that you don't have 6th digit. Because if you don't have it, then, and in a way, you're right. Because if you don't have that 6th digit, you're not going to hurt somebody.
So where's the 6th finger coming from?
Isn't that from the Nephilim or the Nephilim?
It's from the Nephilim. A lot of people will say that, the Nephilim had 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on each foot, square teeth, red hair. And this is what comes from the Bible. So I think they kind of learned those details from Christianity when the settlers came over and they started, adopting the tribes into their religion and making them forget their old ways.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's crazy. All right, Ryan, what is the most scariest creature? I will just say creature that you heard of in the lore.
To me, it's the Wendigo. The Wendigo is absolutely 100% terrifying to me. It's one of those things that even though I'm curious about it and I want to spread the knowledge and awareness of it, I don't ever want to see one. I mean, if somebody ever offers, hey, Ryan, I'll take you to a place where I can see a Wendigo, I'll tell them, the hell you will. I'm not going with you. I don't want to see that.
I'm kind of the same way when somebody says, I'll show you a dog man. Oh, no, you won't. No, that's if I have a
sighting. No, I'm good.
If I have a sighting of a dog man, it's by accident. You can count on that. Because there's no reason.
Sure. I mean, I get it,
All right. Well,
with the dog man, though, you do have that chance.
Go ahead. With a
Okay, so with Dogman, you have that chance that it's just going to pass you by. You know, that the Dogman's going to see you and be like, nah, you're no interest to me. But the Wendigo, though, I have this horror, this terrifying notion that if I ever saw a Wendigo, even from a distance, it's going to like turn around and be like, oh, I see you too, Ryan. Don't think I don't know you're there. So, yeah.
Ryan, are you doing this?
Only when he goes to Canada.
My dog does it now, though. When I'm sitting here writing the book and I'm looking over my shoulder, my dog Duke is looking over his shoulder like, what are we looking for, Daddy?
Well, I look at it this way. Bigfoot, you got a chance. I do believe there's, I'm not going to say human, but I do believe they're wanting to stay away from us unless you run across a Gutway, however you want to pronounce it, Janasqua. Now, I do believe you're going to find those that are rogues that get kicked out of a clan that are hungry.
Yes.
And they might have some dangerous intentions on you. But for the most part, you're going to have a benign meeting with a Bigfoot if you have any at all. But the Dogman, that's something different. That seems like something that's always looking for its next meal, and it don't care what it is.
Yeah. It's like that old meme
Dogman
that they have. I don't know if you guys remember it. It was a Bigfoot and a Dogman. And it's like, what's the difference between Bigfoot and a Dogman? And where it has Bigfoot, it's like mostly shy, elusive, won't hurt you. Then it says Dogman, mostly just an a-hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I even told that lady the last interview I did, I'm like, you know, I said, dear man, that's kind of like stuff of nightmares to see something like that. I'd probably be okay seeing one of those. I'd probably be okay seeing a Birdman. I'd probably be okay seeing a Bigfoot, but Dogman, I want no part of that. No part.
I'm glad you brought up the deer woman again, the deer man. I didn't get to explain that to you. So in the Cherokee belief, there's an entity known as the deer woman. Okay, now her origin, what happened here is a young native maiden was brutally beaten and violated by people in her tribe. Well, when she died, she came back as the deer woman. Okay, and if you're a woman, then the deer woman is completely good for you. She represents fertility, positivity, transformation, good change. If you're a man, though, you don't want to see the deer woman because she goes after unfaithful men and men that have suspicious natures. So if you're a man, the man is going to come after you, lure you into the woods, and then pretty much do away with you.
Ooh, Black Widow.
Pretty much. But if you're a woman, you're good to go. But if you're a guy, it's like, oh, you in trouble now.
What? Ain't that the fate of every man?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. See, I like to think I'm not dumb enough to be lured out into the woods by a pretty woman, but I'm lying when I say that. I'm lying horribly when I say it. I know I'd fall for it.
I would too.
So, somebody brought up Goat Man. That's another one I don't think I want to see. I think I'd rather see a.
No. Oh, wait a minute. Time out. I'm going to go smoke, have a cigarette. We've already discussed this. I'll be right back. Carry on with the Goat Man, and I'll be right back, guys. You go.
Okay.
Have at it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Goat Man is one I don't ever want to see either.
Yeah, that even though it doesn't, I mean, a goat's not terrifying, but a goat man, just I don't know. That doesn't sound pleasant at all in any way, shape, or form.
No, it really doesn't.
I don't think I'd want to ever come across that. But a lot of them think they seem to be like, what do you call it? Urban legend type stories.
Mm-hmm.
Are there? I don't know that there's many like solid fact. Like, hey, I saw a goat man.
Sure.
Have you ever?
Sure. Well, I mean, with the thing with urban legends, though, they start off somewhere. Okay. And while some of them might be completely made up, there are some, though, that do have historical records that make you go, well, wait a minute. Is this what they were talking about? For example, the Pigman. Okay. I'm sure you've all heard of the Pigman.
That's another. Yeah. No,
right.
That's another one I don't want.
But when you look into the background of the area, the history of that area, there was actually a man that born with some kind of birth defect did look very much like a pig. So when you look at that, you're kind of like, oh, whoa, is that what they were talking about? Was this guy, maybe because of his birth defects, did he go crazy and he was, attacking people? I mean, that urban legend would have a foundation, right?
Yeah.
That would have solid roots. So maybe there's something for the goat man that we're not quite looking into. And I think the reason why the goat man is so terrifying, though, a bipedal goat. I mean, when you think of bipedal goat, it's kind of a representation of Satan, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You see a lot of statues where they're talking about Satan, and it was a goat. It's a goat-headed man.
That's why it's scary.
So it makes you wonder if maybe the goat man.
Yeah, I guess that's why it scares me.
Maybe the goat man has ties to the occult.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got ties to the occult. Maybe it has ties to the dark ways that people don't want to do that,
Another thing that I really have trouble wrapping my head around is this Ozark Howler. Because honestly, it howls, obviously, which I think is a Bigfoot thing. But then they also say it has horns and glowing red eyes, which they also say Bigfoot has. But the horns throw me for a loop. Unless maybe it's doing the skin but they usually, when they say it has the horns, they don't say they look like deer horns. It's usually like bull horns. Yeah. In the depictions. So I don't really know what to think of that, because I don't know that. I know people have said they've seen it, but sometimes I think, you might be seeing a Bigfoot and you're just so damn scared and it's dark, and you might just imagine something in the woods. Because actually, I did have a guy, an interview where the guy was like, he saw the dark figure, it had glowing red eyes, and he tried to say it had antlers, but then I was like, are you sure it just wasn't like branches in the background behind that you were mistaking? Because he was trying to call it a skinwalker, is what he was trying to call it, but it was in a totally the wrong area, and so he kind of backtracked on it a little bit. So sometimes, I go ahead.
I'm going to blow your mind with the Ozark Howler. Right? There is somebody in history who was a very important figure in our history. Okay, he was very much an avid gamesman. He was a hunter. He's been to almost every. Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt actually said that he had the Ozark Howler. So, and he would know the difference between Bigfoot and the Ozark Howler.
Is that the one? Are you talking about? Didn't he write a book? Was it Theodore Roosevelt that wrote a book and he told about a story? Is that what you're talking about? Okay. Yeah, the Wilderness Hunter.
Yep.
He called it a goblin.
Yep. Yeah, he actually talked about the Bowman story too. So Theodore Roosevelt actually had a very strong belief. He had a very strong belief in the Ozark Howler. He actually set aside land for the Ozark Howler because he wanted to find it. So he actually set down national parks. That's what became our national parks, is he was putting land reserves for things that he believed in. So,
Yay! Great. I got the Mark Twain National Forest in my backyard. That's probably what that's all about.
There was another person who saw the Ozark Howler as well. In fact, he shot it. Daniel Boone. Daniel Boone saw the Ozark Howler and he shot at it, injuring it. He could never find it again because he wanted to finish it off. But he did shoot the Ozark Howler, and he described it as a very feline-like creature with horns. So there's something to that feline description.
I've heard those encounters, but I never heard the extent that you just told me. I didn't know that it was like, I always thought it was like Bigfoot stories. I didn't realize that they attributed it to Ozark Howler.
Yeah, I don't think it's a type of Bigfoot. I think maybe there was some type of feline they just couldn't identify. And you know how some hunters are. It's like that, a fishing story. You talk to fishermen, they're like, oh, I caught a fish this gigantic. Then you talk to their friend, it was like this big.
Well, I did.
So it was the biggest fish that I've ever seen. It was a great white shark. And it turns out to be like this little catfish, like this big. So
Hey,
You want
don't
to hear a
tell
funny
anybody.
story?
Yeah.
I had just bought a brand new rod and reel, and I hadn't tested it, done anything to it. Just took it out, went fishing, and we was at a big pond, and there were several of us guys on like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. It was semi hot. We was just all out there fishing. I threw my
Hmm.
rod and reel out there, and I'm sitting there, and I got a bite. Oh, son. I started reeling that thing in, and you could hear it whining. Then it take the line back out. And I'm sitting there, and the rods do it, bending over and this and that. People are standing up there watching because they could hear this rod and reel sit over there and cry, And they kept looking, standing up, and I finally got that thing to break the water. And when it come out, it was a fish this big. I tell you no
No
lie.
way.
And Matt, you ought to seen guys laughing on the banks of a pond like you ain't never seen before. Because there's
Oh,
probably
that's
about 20 of
hilarious.
us out there. I was so embarrassed.
I would have been laughing
But
too.
I did. Yeah, I did too. I couldn't blame him. I did set my drag full power after that one, though. I'll grant you that.
That's funny.
But
Somebody
skin.
somebody asked
Go
a
ahead.
question, can a Wendigo be killed?
Yes, yes, it's very difficult to kill a Wendigo. So it's kind of a process. Now, if the tribe caught somebody who was in the initial stages of transforming into a Wendigo, they would use something very, very simple: heated beef tallow. All that is, it's beef fat. Okay. And the
Yeah.
reason why they would use this, they would feed it to the people because they believe that the beef fat would melt the ice around a person's heart, thus stopping the Wendigo curse. Okay. But if they caught them too late, like they were already transformed and they lost their humanity, they would use a silver dagger. It was a pure silver dagger, because everybody believes that silver is a pure metal, that it, breaks a lot of curses. So they would use a silver dagger to dig out the heart of the Wendigo. And they would take the heart and they would cut it up into pieces and they'd put it in a small box. They would burn the heart in that box, take the ashes and bury it in hallowed ground. Then what they would do with the remains of the body is they would quarter it. They take off the limbs, the arms, the legs, the feet, the fingers, the head. They'd cut the body in half and they'd bury all these different body parts in different places in the wilderness so the Wendigo could not reassemble itself.
Really? Well,
That's
I got a
That's how much
question.
they
creepy.
believe in this now.
Y'all were talking while I was outside about the goat man, and Ryan, I
Yeah.
was thinking the same thing you were saying out there. It is more or less of a demonic depiction, but I could only imagine that it would have
Yeah.
horns and stuff like that. But then y'all got into
Hmm.
the skinwalker. Am I taking it
Hmm.
that the skinwalker is basically geographical? That's what it's
Yes,
saying.
yes. And it's something that a lot of people, yeah, they like to ignore it. I've written articles about this and people still insist on arguing with me about it. But the information that I got, they need to understand it came right from the Navajo people. I've spent about maybe 2-3 years now speaking to different people from the Navajo tribe. And I asked them, well, when people in California are seeing skinwalkers, is it true? And they told me, absolutely not. No, because in the ranges of the 4 sacred mountains. Okay. And I forget the names of them right now, but there's 4 sacred mountains there's 2 in Arizona, in Colorado, and then 2 in New Mexico. So it has to be within that circle of the 4 sacred mountains. And if it's outside this range, it's not a Yinatalushi. It's not a skinwalker. It's a different entity completely.
Yeah. See, my question is because of Texas. You hear a lot about a Skinwalker Ranch and stuff like that down there.
Hmm. Well, I think they named it that because they thought there was a skinwalker on that territory, which maybe it's possible because it's in Utah. Utah does have kind of an affiliation with the Navajo tribe. So maybe there was something there at one point. But what they're seeing now, it's not a skinwalker. A lot of people downplay the whole skinwalker curse and what skinwalkers really do. A skinwalker put a curse on you. You're not going to just like see all this weird stuff popping up. What you're going to see with a skinwalker curse is your body, your personal well-being is going to start being affected. You're going to get sick. You're going to have bad luck. People are going to not want to be around you because you're giving off some kind of energies that they can sense. So a skin individual, okay? So it's going to kill that individual over time. They don't just curse one plot of land and say, that's it, I'm done, I'm walking away.
Huh. Uh, Joanne, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. This show is because I wanted Brian on here so bad for a long time. But yes, we are a Bigfoot show, and I know your daughter's watching. Tell her to catch us
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I've got a faithful
Sorry.
following on the Bigfoot stuff, and next
Uh-oh.
time we'll have something on Bigfoot. But is this not
She,
fascinating? This is just
sheep,
great.
she, somebody was asking about sheep squatch. What about bat squatch? See, I don't buy into all that.
I don't
Somebody,
even know what
No,
a sheep
no.
squatch is.
there's so many
A
different
sheep
types
squatch
of.
is something that people have seen that like it has more of a sheep's head than a Bigfoot's face. And I think, it's like Patrick was saying, maybe it was a big wearing a sheepskin. I mean,
Yeah.
it's possible.
It'd be better
Hmm.
camouflage than a wolf or a bear. I'll tell you that, because you still able to get shot being one of those.
There is
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
just
there's an interesting irony taking place in the Bigfoot community, though, and I bring this up on every show I go on. So with the Ojibwe, they have what's called the 7 grandfather teachings or the 7 grandfather laws. Okay, and each one is represented by an animal. You have a turtle, a bear, an eagle, but when you get to the one about
Mhm.
honesty, it's represented by the Kichesabe, the Bigfoot. Okay, and the Bigfoot in this story,
really.
he tells the young chief, always be honest, mean what you say what you mean, don't lie. And I always think it's a little ironic that we have so many in the Bigfoot community that lie
Yeah,
about Bigfoot when Bigfoot represents honesty.
I know. Yeah, I always found that amazing too because yeah, I've heard that too. I think I brought it up the last time we talked, Ryan, and I
Mhm.
asked you about that because I thought it was the 13 truths, but it's the 7 teachings. I think I
Yes, the
got it
7
wrong.
grandfather
Okay,
laws. Yeah,
7 grandfather laws. But yeah,
yeah. I mean,
and
they're
every single
basically
one's a
codes of
known
conduct.
animal. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's
every
codes of
single one's
conduct.
a
Like
known animal. Yeah.
yeah, they're showing you like the rules you should live by. Like you should always be honest. You should always watch out for your family. You should care about others as much as you care about yourself. So I think that's something that more people should look into. And if people want to look it up in the chat, it's the Ojibwe 7 grandfather laws. Now, if you sit down and you watch that, they even have animated versions where you can watch animated stories. If you sit down and you watch those, you'll learn a whole great deal. And you might even learn a little bit about yourself as well.
Let me ask you a question, Ryan.
Sure.
From what I've been around, they the native tribes have spirit animals representing what you may be
Yes.
about. Did you happen to be? Did you find
Mhm.
what spirit animal you would have, or did they tell you that you had one?
Yeah, actually, mine is a mountain lion.
Oh,
Ooh.
really?
That
And
what that
what does it
represents is
represent?
that represents strength and loyalty and devotion. Because I'm a very caring guy when it's for my family. So if they need something,
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave
Mhm.
them high and dry. I'll go out and find what they need. And that's what the mountain lion represents because it takes such good care of its young. And it's strong when it brings down adversaries. It's a very powerful creature. So that is my spirit animal, is the mountain lion.
All right.
So so
Mine was told that I was a red hawk. What does that mean to you?
I'm trying to think what that actually stands for. I mean, that could be freedom. A lot of times, the eagle, anything that flies, is freedom,
that's what
versatility.
I
Like
got.
you adapt to change very quickly.
Every
Yeah.
time I see an eagle, man, something good happens to me. So I've never been
Well,
Yeah.
told that was my spirit animal, but every time I see one, something great happens that day.
That's how you find your spirit
mine,
animal. A lot of people will tell you that you have to do like a reading of sort to get your spirit animal. No, that's not what you have to do. A lot of the tribes will tell you if you want to know what your spirit animal is, you go out into the woods and you center yourself. You take off your shoes and your socks and you dig your toes into the soil beneath and you just sit and become at peace with yourself. Listen to the wind around you. And whatever animal you start seeing the most, whatever one comes to you, that's your spirit animal. That's your totem animal.
I was told that I was a red hawk because of my uh, medicinal values. I should say. In other words, I used to do old time medicine,
Mhm.
still do, and everybody thought uh, because they associated healings and shamanism and stuff like that with plants, and it
Yes.
was one of those things that a red hawk represented. That's what I was
Yes.
told. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm always curious to what people think, especially the native tribes, of what spirit animals they have. That's always curious for me. Uh,
Yes.
Somebody says, do you think Sasquatch are paranormal or elemental creatures?
Jeez. I want to believe
Um,
that they're flesh and blood. I want to believe they're flesh and blood, but I do leave my mind open to the spiritual aspect. Okay. I do consider that maybe it is a possibility, but like I was saying earlier, I need evidence of it. And how do you prove it's a spirit? I don't know. That's kind of up to you to do, isn't it?
yeah,
Go ahead, Patrick.
I was gonna say I want to believe they're flesh and blood. I started off believing that that's all they were, but as many people as I've
Mm-hmm.
talked to, and as many experiences, as much as I've been checking into it, I really think that they have. And you call me crazy, call me woo, but I think they got powers they can do with their mind that we just can't comprehend. Maybe they can change their frequency to when. And I'm not saying they can cloak, but maybe they can. You know, I
No.
I think that I honestly do think that they have the capability to do mind speak. I really do. I believe in that. I believe humans could do it too if you put yourself in the right state of mind and cleanse yourself and if you're in the right spiritual place. I think it's possible for humans to do
Yeah.
it. We've just forgotten how to do it. um I believe
Sure.
Bigfoot can do a lot of things that we just can't comprehend. And, just because we can't comprehend it doesn't mean it's crazy.
That's true.
That's just my
That's true.
personal
I would-
opinion.
Have you ever heard of the Tulpa effect?
No, what's that?
Okay, so tulpas, they're thought forms. Okay. Buddhists and Tibetan monks believe that if you think of something with enough energy, you can
Oh,
manifest this creature into being. So I have to
yes.
wonder if maybe people are so obsessed with certain cryptids that so much energy is going into these thoughts that the energy has to go somewhere. Okay. And the energy is manifesting. That would explain why when they take a shot at the dog man, the bullets go right through them. That would explain why they're seeing
Yeah.
Bigfoot that walk out of portals or that cloak, because we're not seeing the real Bigfoot or the real Dogman. We're seeing something else that looks like Bigfoot or Dogman because we're thinking about it so dang much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people are obsessed.
Yeah.
Cryptid.
I didn't know the specific name for it, but I know what you're talking about. It's like collective thought. So many
Yeah,
people are thinking
exactly.
about it. It brings it in to reality.
Right.
Because
Right. Exactly.
once again, another mind power that I think we've lost the ability to control or
Right.
use.
Well, I mean, that's why
But
Bruce Lee used to say, be careful what words you use on yourself. That if you talk badly about yourself, your body feels it because you're putting out this negative energy about yourself that your body starts to break down because you're manifesting this toxic, evil energy that's just going to hurt you more and more and more.
Those powers of the mind. I
Yeah.
got you. Very interesting. Very
The mind
interesting.
is a very, very powerful thing.
It is.
Mhm.
It is. And I've got several explanations. Like I said, I'm a common sense reasoning kind of guy. Uh, it's
Good.
flesh and blood all the way. And it's like I tell people, okay, they want to say it's extraterrestrial. I don't go hunting Bigfoot with a flashlight out there trying to wave down the mothership. And I know I'm saying trying to be funny, but you see what I'm getting at. When I go hunt out for
Yeah.
Bigfoot, I've usually got a firearm, for the simple reason I may be in bear country, rattlesnake country, any other kind of stuff, wildcats. So there's reason for it to be carrying out armed. Now, do I want to use it against the Bigfoot? No, I don't. Absolutely don't want to. That is the furthest thing from my mind, but I'm not going to let one tear my face off either. Uh,
Yeah.
Everything that I find physical evidence of points to it being an animal. Now, a very intelligent animal. Chimpanzees can do stuff that we can't do. Gorillas can too. They're so strong. You know what I'm saying? They're also their environment. They are so much smarter in there than we are because we're what? We're sitting behind computers
yeah,
I'm going to
talking
use the
about
bathroom
this
real
kind of
quick.
stuff.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'm going
And,
to take a quick trip to the bathroom.
okay, buddy. All right, I'll take you out till let's see you come back. But yeah, that's my point. Everything I see and hear points to it being flesh and blood. And like I said, I'm not trying to down or shoot anybody else's theories or what they may have saw. There could be some mental aspects going on. It could be, so like you said, cloaking. Okay, cloaking. If it wasn't for the fact that, from what I understand, they have silver tips on their hair, which to me presents a problem. Remember we was talking about the thermal imaging?
Yeah.
You can't shoot thermal through glass. Well, if it's got silver tipped and there's enough of it, it can block the heat detection on a thermal imager. It's also very reflective. So if it's reflective, and say you see something out there in the woods, it could basically look like a chameleon type creature, if you know what I'm trying to get at here. It's reflecting from the woods and the greenery and everything else around. Do you see what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
at? So, and if at a certain angle, somebody that's first time ever seeing one like this or seeing it out there, their mind is already, how I want to put it, in awe
Yeah.
that you're seeing something that ain't supposed to exist.
So,
And go
and
ahead.
then and I was going to say, and you make a really good point, because when you see it, you're already in shock, and I guess kind of like a deer or any other creature in nature. It's like when you see it, and then they return back into the woods, it does seem like they just disappear.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
tell a story. I tell a story all the time. I've been out not hunting. I took my dog out in the woods and went down the bottom of these two hollers, and we're just walking in the woods. I'm just checking out things. I seen these about 4 or 5 deer. I think it's about four, but anyways, the biggest doe come out. She looks at me. We're probably 20 yards, 15 yards away, something like that. And she's looking at me, and then she just turns and walks flat across this hillside, goes in behind this big oak tree. And I'm sitting there waiting on her to see her nose come out on the other side. Well, I never see it. Her body stays straight, and it's not that big of an oak tree that it hides her whole body.
yeah.
But basically, what she does, she goes in behind this tree and turns and starts going up the hill. And so did the others. And I'm sitting there. I didn't want to move. I just wanted to watch.
You know
They
what?
perfectly stood behind that trees and disappeared on over the hill.
I had a very, very similar situation. My wife and I were out at the lake. It was a couple weeks ago, and I was watching. There was a big group of deer, like 6 or 7 of them, and they're in this little field. And there's no leaves on the trees out here right now. And so I'm watching them, and they're all starting to leave the scene. And then I'm expecting to see them go up the hill, but they kind of like went behind a little freaking tree and then never came out, never went up, never. But they went
And,
somewhere.
and the funny thing of it is, you really don't hear them walking away either.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know what they know how to get in a tree or an object in between you and your eyesight, and their hind end may be towards you, but they know that direction that you're watching. They just disappear right over the next hill. You won't even hear them going over it. It's amazing
yeah,
how nature does that, and I
yeah.
think Bigfoot can do it too.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, 100%. So and that might have a lot to do with the cloaking or portal stories.
Yeah,
I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not, and trust me, I'm the last guy that's going to say anybody's lying about that stuff, but it might
yeah.
have something to do with it.
Mhm.
Well, like I said, if
I
I
mean,
can't
it's not
reason
saying
it
they're,
out, go ahead, Ryan.
it's not really saying they're lying though. I mean, like I do when I do investigations or interviews, I ask them, well, did you take your eyes off of it for a long time? And sometimes they say yes. And I have to remind them, animals can take off quickly. If you take your eyes off of it for a second, it's there 1 minute and then gone the next. It didn't cloak. It took off on you.
Well, this another story that I often hear about is when people hear a scream or a yell or they see something, their mind goes blank. And it doesn't say,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't, the length of time that their mind shuts down on them can be anywhere from,
Mm-hmm.
few seconds to an hour, 30 minutes or so like that. And till they come back, then they don't know what happened. I mean, I know a good story of a guy, he was on here a while ago. He does an interview with him, and it's an incredible story. How one little yell, all of a sudden, how his mind just shut down, and basically he wakes up in his truck with his rifle. How does he do that? You know, he doesn't remember anything in between from the yell to the time he got to the truck. So that's what I'm saying. There's
Well,
certain
fear will do some weird stuff to us.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think people underestimate what fear does. I mean, it kicks in so many chemicals in your body. You know, in your brain, the sparks off. Your synapses are going crazy. So you're going to lose time sometimes when you're so afraid. You're going to see something 1 minute, and then next thing you know, it's 20 minutes later going, what did I even do in that time frame?
Well, it's like a simple explanation. I say explanation, a simple example. You're driving down the road. How many times have you sat there and be wandered off into thought, and next thing you know, you done blowed through 2 or 3 red lights, and how in the world did I get here so quick? And what happened in between? Did I run that red light or was it green?
Exactly.
You know, it's the same situation.
There you go. There you go.
Logical.
Logical.
I got to tell Steven, thanks for giving me a props on my shirt.
That is a cool shirt. I'm going to buy one of those from you, man.
You get one, Ryan. I'm going to make.
Sweet.
Okay. Are we handing out free t-shirts tonight?
Well,
right.
You too. When I get my next order in.
How do you like that one?
I like it. I like yours too.
That's really neat. You know, that's very similar to what I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing a glow-in-the-dark Bigfoot.
Yeah. Oh, so that's glow in the dark.
That's cool.
Oh,
I got that from Lyle Blackburn, actually. Lyle Blackburn sent me that.
Wow.
Really?
That's cool.
Man, how do I get to be friends with him?
Yeah.
all I'm going to get from Ryan is a book. Jeez, I want a shirt.
Well, actually, I am trying to get shirts that go with my books. So I'm trying to work out a deal with a company that makes glow-in-the-dark T-shirts. And I'm going to try to make a glow-in-the-dark Wendigo T-shirt to go with my book, as well as a painting of a Wendigo that I'm doing. I want to kind of like give a package deal where I send autographed books, the print, and the shirt to the first few people that get my book.
Really? I tell you what, I just want the book. I mean, I'm not greedy at all. As a matter of fact, I wished you would before we get off here tonight. Would you tell people what you're doing in your book writing?
Yeah, sure. So with the Wendigo, I'm trying to spread the indigenous belief about it, the indigenous stories. So I'm shying away from any creepypastas or any horror narration versions that you might get. I'm getting my information from the Algonquin, the Cree, and the Ojibwe, and I'm pretty much regurgitating and telling you what they told me. So you're getting their stories straight from them. Okay. Same thing with the Yinaralushi book. I'm talking to Navajo people here in Arizona. So whatever they say is right and whatever they say is wrong is going to be in that book. So you're learning the oral traditions of different indigenous tribes from Canada, Arizona, you know, the Cherokee people you're going to learn about, the Hopi people, you know, so I have a lot of books planned that are going to teach indigenous folklore.
Okay. Now, these other books haven't been published yet. You said you've already had them done though, right? They just ain't been published yet.
Right. I'm with the Skinwalker one, I'm just kind of going over it, and I'm having some Navajo friends read the manuscript to make sure everything is accurate. And once they say, yeah, that you're spot on, Ryan, that's when it goes off to the publisher.
Okay. Yeah, and he's working on a Cherokee one. What's that one about?
That one's going to be all the oral traditions about like the Raven Mocker, the Little People, their take on Bigfoot, you know, the Thunderbirds, the Horned Serpent. So anything that might be considered a cryptid, so to speak, is going to be in the Cherokee book, and you're going to learn the Cherokee view on them.
I want all three. But anyways, Ryan's going to Ryan's going to let us know when they are available, and when they are, I will get on here and I will tell everybody and how to find them. Ryan, make sure you send me how to for people can order them from whatever you or the publisher.
Absolutely.
So we can get to know that. But you did hit a certain subject. You said the magic word. I was going to avoid it. Little people.
Oh,
Stick
the little
Indians?
people, huh? The Pukwudgies. No, Stick Indians are a kind of a
Pukwudgies,
different entity. But the Pukwudgies, they're mischievous little troublemakers. If you respect them, they'll respect you. But the minute you start disrespecting nature and you take more than you need, the Pukwudgies are going to be those little pain in the butts, and they're going to start stealing stuff from you and maybe even steal your kid as a way of saying, behave yourself. You know, and it's something that a lot of the tribes actually have similar beliefs in. this is what's so fascinating, Icebox, is when you really start scratching the surface of indigenous folklore, you find that various tribes have very similar beliefs. You know, they might deviate a certain extent, but they're very, very similar. You know, and that to me tells me that if they're that similar, they have that much in common, then the tribes were seeing something. They were dealing with something on a daily basis that they were telling stories about. And I think it's really important that those stories are told accurately and the way that the original peoples told them, not the way that people on, creepypastas told them or in horror movies told them, but straight from their mouths, where we get, their interpretations, what they believe they are, where they came from, what they did. I think it's really important that those stories are shared. I really do.
I do too. Mary Joyce, I had her on here. She's an author. She does a web channel and all this and that. Very, very nice lady, very knowledgeable. And she done some interviewing and similar research to what you've done with, I don't know if it was indigenous people or not, but she also come on here and was specifically come on here to tell me about the little people. And it was fascinating.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fascinating that it wasn't like stick people or anything like that, but these were real little people that were in a certain area, and they would only come out at night because one reason or another. But anyway, just that's a fascinating interview when I talked to her. But she did say there are such things as little people, but it was more or less from the Cherokee folklore. But she went out there and talked to a bunch of them, and she done a good job with that. The Hoopa Indians of California, I believe, also speak a lot of the little people. And what got me was a certain guest I had on here, and I don't need to repeat it, but he was talking about the little people. And he didn't hit me with it until after the show. And he showed me a photograph of a small footprint. Well, it could have been a small juvenile Bigfoot, for as far as I know. You know what I'm saying? But it was a very tiny footprint out there in the woods. You're not going to carry them kids out there in this part of the woods. You know what I'm saying? There's use common sense and reasoning. You know, so it always scratched my head why something about little people. Now Bigfoot, I've got no problem. I've seen one. Got no problem in believing in Bigfoot or knowing about Bigfoot. But there's so many other creatures and cryptids and critters that are out there that I don't know about. And I've been hunting, fishing all my life. And of course, if you don't go to certain areas, if you don't go to certain areas, you don't hear about these things.
Yeah.
But even when I told people I seen Bigfoot, I don't believe it because it's not something that you would see every day. You can't just go out. No, there's that mockingbird. It's the same thing as a Bigfoot. They just don't see it every day. And it's hard to convince people of this kind of stuff. All right.
Yes.
Guys.
It is. It's really difficult.
Oh, I can only imagine. I want a book. I want all three. Patrick, what else you got tonight, bud?
You'll get them. You will definitely get them.
I
promise you will get all the books.
I want all three too. I said I want all three too.
Autograph.
Don't you worry. You guys are going to be on my list.
All right.
Autographed.
About the only thing I have to add is anybody definitely go check out Ryan's Facebook page. He's got so much cool stuff he puts on there. I mean, he's actually my favorite one to check out. Oh yeah, I love everything he put on there. And if nobody, and if nobody's checked out my podcast yet, go out there, check it out. It's the Cryptid Quest podcast on YouTube. It's also on Spotify. Cryptid Quest on Facebook. It's just Cryptid Quest on Facebook. If you guys want to talk to me, say hey, have a story, have anybody else that wants to tell an encounter, hit me up on Facebook and PM me, or you can go to the Cryptid Quest podcast at gmail.com. Send me a message. I'll be more than happy to talk to you, just to chat. If you got any questions or if you got a story, know anybody that does, send them my way.
Now, guys,
that's it.
Now do you see why I wanted Ryan? I had been looking so forward to this forever to get this gentleman on, and I couldn't ask for a better guy for Patrick to come on here with us. This has been fun, guys. I really thoroughly enjoyed
Oh
this.
yeah, this is a blast.
Now,
I
y'all,
enjoyed this. I enjoyed this greatly.
good, because y'all ever
Yeah,
want
I
to get
did
into
too.
a serious discussion about some other stuff, but I really want people to have a general meeting of Ryan and how great of a guy he is. I want you to look at this. Everybody's wanting 3 books already. Yeah, you got to get them put out there.
Wow.
Good.
Okay.
This is Old Bear.
All right.
Yeah, this is Old Bear. That's my buddy. That's my friend. I've got several of them on here. I guarantee you there's going to be several people wanting to know when do these books come out, because I want one myself. But we're going to get out here, Ryan. Thank you, man.
I will definitely. All right. My pleasure. You guys have a great night.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else, guys, before I get out?
That's it. Keep it creepy.
Got
That's what I say at the end of
There
my
you
show.
keep it creepy, guys. If y'all want to come back on
All right.
sometime and
Take care, everybody.
do some Bigfoot talking, some difference talking between Patrick and I and everybody else.
Yeah, we can.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do. I think he done ducked out, but yeah, anytime we want to do just Bigfoot, I love Bigfoot. That's my
Oh,
favorite.
well, see,
I just love everything else
we can
too.
get Ryan on and do a civil conversation like we was doing earlier. We just didn't have time to do a bunch of
Oh
it because
yeah,
that was fun. That's always fun.
100%.
All right, Patrick,
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming back on with me. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you asking me to come back on. This was a
Hey, we'll do it
blast.
again. We'll do it again.
Heck
Now
yeah, heck
it's
yeah.
gonna be,
Just let me
it might be a
know.
little bit soon because we're fixing to get into what I call Bigfoot hunting season. We've got gentlemen, before I do get out of here, uh, uh, Florida conference coming up here in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be with Richard, Mr. Athos, Johnny Two Bears. Can't remember who else is going down there. That's going to be a great conference. We done a little show last year. Richard done a great job showing us around. I had a great time with it, and we're going to do it again this year because a lot of us folks can't go to these kind of conferences, and they get to. He shows
Yeah.
everything that he can down there. It's a great time. I look so forward to that. And that's coming up. Let's see if Richard's still on here. Oh, geez, I don't know if he got out yet or not. But Richard from BFFG, you guys go check him out. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and post that up there. There we are. Y'all check him out. And of course, don't forget our buddy right over on our left-hand side, the Cryptid Quest podcast, the Cryptid Quest podcast.
The Cryptid
Gotta
Quest
put
pod.
the
Yeah.
in there. If I
Yeah,
remember
you
that right.
do because there's yeah, that's the trick. Because when I first started it, then I figured out, well, there was a couple that failed in the past, and I done picked the name and I liked it, so I added the and podcast. Now, there you go. Now it's
All right,
mine.
yep, Richard is still on here. He says April 5th, so we're going to be doing that. So I don't know what else we're going to be doing between now and then. But anyways, y'all have a very nice night, rest of your weekend. Thanks for all you guys that come over here to enjoy the show. Now do you see why I was so excited to watch to have Ryan on here? He's just a great guy all the way around.
Yeah.
But anyways,
100%.
yeah, we're gonna get. Thank you again, Patrick. My thanks to Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Y'all all have a good night and a good rest of your weekend, and hopefully we'll see y'all here
Have a good night,
in about
everybody.
another 2 weeks. All right.
All
See you,
right.
Patrick.
Peace
See you,
out.
bud.
See ya.